Sean Strickland. Let's just get straight to it, man. Sean Strickland, arguably the most boring fighter. Okay, maybe not the most boring fighter, but one of the most boring fighters in the middleweight division. Of course, is already laying the grounds for excuses. This man really comes out here and acts like he's making sense and saying something reasonable, asking DDP to make some type of pact to stand and fight like men in his terms and not, not attempt any takedowns or things like that. Now, if Strickland was this dominant wrestler, right? If he was this well-rounded fighter who could strike, which he can, I give him that. But if he could actually grapple, or if he's proven to have this awesome takedown defense and can hold his own, it's like I would take him seriously with his requests to Dricus. I would. Strickland is a very, very good striker, but he literally has no ground game. So for him to come out and act like, oh yeah, let's take a pact, let's make this pact. You know what? Let's get straight to it. Let's go over the clip so it won't be like I'm sure a lot of y'all have seen it, but I want to break down what he says and this man's fighting style. Okay? Because a lot of people call Israel boring, and Israel Adesanya has had a bunch of boring performances. I give y'all that for sure. But his way to the top and his reign as a champion, he's had a lot of fantastic moments. Sean Strickland doesn't have nothing. All right? Sean Strickland has more entertaining sparring sessions with influencers and random people than actual fights in the octagon. And that's a fact. So he says, you know what? Let's go over what he says first. I hope you guys can hear.
Listen, Dutch man, I'm gonna need you to be a man. I'm gonna need you to stand up, not go to your knees, and we're gonna need to strike like men. I know you like to wrestle and you like to choke people out and do some dude, but I'll make a pact with you, you make a pact with me, that we stand up like men and we settle this like men. Listen, Dutch man, I'm gonna need you to be a man. I'm gonna need you to stand up, not go to your knees.
So stand up. He makes it seem like, oh yeah, not go to your knees is some like lame thing to do. Like, bro, this is MMA. This is not kickboxing. This is not boxing. This is MMA. And playing the American flag behind what he's saying. I don't know if that's an edit. Americans, there are so many well-rounded American fighters who freaking know how to grapple as well as fight. But of course, Dricus has a very, very base response to this bullshit of a request. He says, there are no pacts between lions and men. Now that's a response from I think he took that from Troy, the movie Troy. Cold ass response. But then he said more things. Dricus says, if you want to make pacts about us just standing up, go do boxing. He said to the Det, and I was ready. In the last fight, he said to the Det, and I was ready for that. I went forward for 23 minutes out of a 25-minute fight. But from him, it was just jabs and teeps. That's facts. Sean Strickland knows a lot of one-liners to sound tough, but I expose fake tough guys. I'm not here to make pacts. I'm here to win. I'm not going to lie to you guys, man. I didn't really care for Dricus at first, but ever since he defeated Israel the way he did and the way he's been running through the middleweight division, the guy has won me over, man. I think I'm a Dricus fan, honestly speaking. I saw something here before I go in on Strickland. This meme says, when Sean Strickland asks someone to stand and bang, this is what he means. Literally, if you guys remember the last fight with Paulo Costa, throughout the fight, just standing with this freaking position, throwing light kicks, jabs, and then at the last second of the fight, he then went all in. He did that with his fight against Israel. I think he almost knocked Israel out at one point, granted. And I'm not even taking anything away from his win. His win against Israel, totally legit. The biggest thing he has achieved in his career, even though he has downplayed that by saying Israel is overrated. Like, how can you call the best fighter you've defeated or fought, you defeated him and then go ahead and call him overrated? Like some low IQ stuff. Anyways, this is what Strickland is talking about. If Strickland was telling the truth when he says he's gonna go to war, right? He's gonna go to I'm gonna go to war for you guys, man. For you guys. If he was actually telling the truth when he says that, I would respect it, But the guy is so hypocritical. Sean Strickland the person who said, man, before he was a champion, he was like, man, all these champions, they're all sissies and act like girls. They cherry pick their fights, and when they want to do this and that and complain. By the way, guys, we're live Tuesdays and Thursdays. So have a link at the top of the chat if you want to support the channel. I appreciate that. Now, Sean Strickland has had good fights. I'm not disqualifying his record or anything like that. But the last fight that Strickland went to war, in fact, the fights that he goes to war, it's his opponents who make him go to war. He's not the one who initiates that war. Sean Strickland has one of the most boring fights of all times. And I bet a lot of you forgot that fight existed. People say, oh yeah, Izzy versus Romero, the most boring fight ever. But Sean Strickland versus Jack Hermanson, yeah, I bet you forgot that fight. That's how fucking boring that fight was. Strickland versus Jack Hermanson, absolutely the worst things. That's the first fight that I turned off. I'm not even kidding you. I just went to do something else. Anyways, like I said, what I like about Strickland though, when you push him forward, when you put on that pressure, he doesn't quit. You know, he then goes to the war he's talking about, but he never initiates it. He's actually fine jabbing and teeping until you do something. Let's take a look at Sean Strickland's record, and I'll get to everybody in the chat. 1 second. I just want to be detailed in what I'm talking about. So Sean Strickland's record, right? Paulo Costa, absolutely boring. Boring ass fight. He only went to war in the last 10 seconds, right? You would say, oh yeah, maybe he had some type of injury or something happened, but he debunks that at the end of that fight because he then showed all the energy and all the will to go in only at the end of the fight. Versus Dricus, it was a decent fight, but like Dricus said, it was all the pressure came from Dricus. Now, Sean Strickland stood his ground and everything, but everything came from Dricus. Sean was not the one bringing the fire. Sean was not the one trying to make it a war. Sean was literally defending himself throughout the whole fight, and that's what he was doing, okay? Strickland versus Adesanya, boring fight as well, but Strickland pulled probably the biggest upset in UFC history, so props to him, and he won that fight handily. I don't believe it was a fluke or anything like that. So props to him. Now Strickland versus Abus Magomedov, that was a good performance from Strickland. I'll give him that because he did get a KO in the second round. But I mean, I don't want to be unbiased. I don't want to be biased. But if you compare Abus Magomedov and these other fighters we've mentioned so far, the difference is so far ahead. Strickland beat Nasruddin Umarov. Another boring ass fight. Same thing, jabbing, teeping. Strickland versus Cannonier, very, very close fight. And a lot of people were like, oh yeah, Strickland won that fight. I don't think he did. I think Cannonier won that fight, but it's not a hard stance because it was definitely close. But it was a decent fight. It wasn't anything crazy. Alex Pereira, he got knocked out. Jack Hermanson, that was the trash fight out. This fight was so fucking boring, bro. Uriah Hall versus Strickland, so freaking boring. And then I guess he had a nice fight against Allen, but you get my drift. Since 2021, Strickland has had three decent performances and one finish. But the way he talks, right? It only matches when he's sparring random people in the gym. It does not match his fights in the octagon. So my whole point is, like, if you're gonna call if you're gonna call Israel Adesanya a boring champion or a boring fighter, you can't look yourself objectively in the mirror and be like, oh yeah, but Strickland is fun. That is the craziest thing ever. Strickland is way more boring. Strickland doesn't have close to a quarter of any moment Adesanya has had in the record. All right. So I'm just very glad that Dricus had that response to him.